Hey there. Welcome back to the podcast. So glad you're with me. All I can say about this episode is wow. Now, this is an opportunity to expand your business, to expand your brand, and to even take it national. And it's all done for you. This is something I explored years ago. If you've got a product that you think that your customers love and you suddenly think, wow, this could be in supermarkets across the country. How do I do it? It's so overwhelming. My guest today is Gail Kurpgeweit, and she is the CEO, the head of a company called Pivot North Consulting Group that does just that. They have the relationships, they have the track record. They're used to working with all kinds of products, and they do everything for you. And they have strategy sessions that determine, do you have something special? Can it be amazing and set the world on fire? You're not going to want to miss this episode. It's powerful. You've also probably heard me talk about the profit maximizer. Now, restaurants are struggling with inflation. They're struggling with high labor costs. They might be busy in filling their seats, but their margins are low, and they're just not making enough money, wondering, why is my bank account not growing? Well, you owe it to yourself. You got to check out the profit maximizer. It'll give you immediately actionable ideas and how to execute them to boost your bottom line profit. Check it out at restaurantrockstars.com/profit maximizer. Now, on with the episode.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Bodwin.
Listen, what would it feel like to lower your operating costs, double your sales, lower staff turnover, create raving fans, and design a menu that literally prints money? Our online restaurant training system will teach you and your staff to rock your restaurant and transform your business. Head on over to restaurantrockstars.com. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to get started. You've got this. I know from my experience that growing your business can mean big-time logistical challenges, like how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Believe me, when I owned restaurants, this was a challenge for me. Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then, drivers from Uber's courier network pick them up at your place and deliver them right to your customer's door. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com. Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. I'm so glad you're here. And welcome to the show, Gail. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you?
Terrific. This is really fascinating because I'm a huge believer in not just selling food and drink when you own a restaurant or run a hospitality enterprise. It's really about additional profit centers, and you have an expertise in this that we're going to dive into. But everyone knows my first question is usually, how did you get into this business? What was your backstory? You can take us back as far as it goes. If you were a teenager and you worked in fast food or whatever it was, everyone's got a story. What's yours?
Oh, back when I was a teenager, I was a terrible cook.
Oh, did you cook?
I tried. I was terrible at it, just terrible. But eventually grew up and became an adult. So I always had a passion for food, and I started out in around 2009. I came from a consulting management services background, didn't have anything to do with food. And then in 2009, around that time when the economy was tanking and everybody was looking for new footings, I had just went to my daughter's, made her wedding cake. And the wedding cake was very popular. And I came home from that wedding thinking, maybe this is the next step for my career, right? Started out as doing cakes, and then it turned into catering, and my business background, it grew quickly. By 2012 or so, we had a full scale hit in Seattle, larger corporate events. And then it grew into frozen food manufacturing. We got a deal with Microsoft where they wanted us to make these prepared meals for their cafes. So I got into packaging, and that turned into CPG, started launching our own products, worked on some deals with QVC, things like that. So it just grew and scaled, and it was all wonderful. Yeah.
Let me ask you, that's a fascinating story. Would you say that there was a turning point or a lucky break where you had some success in catering, but then somehow you got discovered by Microsoft and I'm on the map? It's like I'm a clothing manufacturer and Oprah bought something and now she's telling the world it's you now got Microsoft as a client. How did that come about?
I think the fact that we specialized in large events early on, and again, it was we're in Seattle. At the time, I was in Seattle. Now I'm in Arizona.
Yes. Okay.
At the time, Seattle, those are the big accounts.
Of course.
Boeing, Microsoft, Google. And so as a caterer, I was like, I want that lunch business, right?
Yes.
Those office.
Oh, yes.
And so we would just talk to their admins and we'd get the business. And then pretty soon I'm looking for opportunities and how can we become a really great partner? It's always, what does Microsoft need? What makes things easier for these admins to secure a caterer? And so I started out that way. And that's where we started to learn that some of the bigger events, that's where they were having some trouble. So we scaled and partnered with companies like Compass Group, things like that to do larger events and then specialized in that. So that's how it started, was just that it's all about relationships, right?
It
And finding
absolutely
and
is.
listening to the client and finding out what's really important to them, what need is not being served right now, and how can we help?
Excellent. That's terrific. So that pretty much launched everything. And then you had partnerships, I heard, along the way.
Mhm.
And did you specialize in any particular type of product, or did you have the expertise to do just about anything that was food related? Tell me about that.
From catering, we really focused on. So I did at the beginning when I started this food business, I thought I need to really learn how to cook professionally because I was not a great cook. So I went to culinary school in the mornings, and then during the day I would build my catering business. So at a culinary school, I really grew a passion for French cooking and things like that. And so in catering, we focused on really amazing sauces and things like that. That's where I felt the most passion for it. But then we did a lot of Indian food. And then I would hire on specialty chefs because in that Seattle area, there's a lot of people who really enjoy Indian cuisine. So focused on that quite a bit. But I would say that the majority of that growth just came from on the CPG side was frozen food, really becoming an expert in frozen food because it was how we could get meals and prepared meals and these specialty products that Microsoft wanted for the cafes, we could get them to grow. And the first product line we did for them was gluten-free because that was back in the day when that was becoming a thing. They needed gluten-free
Absolutely.
options in the
Mhm.
cafe. They didn't have any.
Right.
That's the market we served. We came up with this line of gluten-free, but I had to learn it. Like at the time, I didn't know anything about gluten-free. What I knew was that I wanted the food to taste as good for gluten-free as it did for our regular clients. And that's what we did. So that was the engineering behind it.
Interesting. Now, I think back on my own experience because I had a very successful restaurant and our primary product was pizza. And it was so popular, this pizza. And we decided to freeze them, and anyone who enjoyed our pizza could take a pizza home. But then the next level was so much more complicated because first I think we had to explore food testing and calorie information and ingredients and legalities. And then we had to figure out how do we par bake this thing so that it can just be popped in the oven, and how do we shrink wrap it and package it properly. And then when you start talking to supermarkets or distribution, now suddenly you're looking at some hurdles to jump, like slotting fees. And yeah, that's going to be $50,000 to put your product on our shelf just to see if it works. And
Yeah.
some of these things can be daunting to some of our audience that say, hey, I got a spaghetti sauce that'll set the world on
Right.
fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's your advice, and how do you jump some of those hurdles? Do you help at that now? Are you a consultant
Yeah.
where you help people bring a product to
That's
market?
exactly what we do. That's
Okay,
exactly what we do. So so COVID, of course, killed catering, right? So as I
absolutely.
was coming
Right.
back from COVID, and I really wanted to reinvent my business to be more kind of bulletproof. I wanted to make sure that we
I
couldn't
love
just
that
be
word.
shut down on a whim and we couldn't, and that if the economy shifted, how can we do a better job? So I really looked at what we had done successfully with CPG for our own products before COVID.
Mhm.
I just really, and I also have a passion for restaurants, restaurant brands and things like that, ever be in this hospitality industry. So I said, how can we serve the restaurant community, give them something of value, and take all these skills and everything that we have and do something great for all of us? So developed Menu to Market. And Menu to Market is a program that's completely all-inclusive services. So our clients stay restaurant owners and our team does everything else. And we literally take all that R&D. What is it going to take to get this product to be successfully packaged and legally compliant, get it into manufacturing. And
Awesome.
then once it's a product, then it baton passes to our brokerage division where we sell it into grocery stores. And we handle all the distribution because one of the things you just
Wow.
touched on was
Yeah.
how difficult this is for new brands. And
Mhm.
one of the biggest hurdles for new brands is distribution because the big distributors, that I won't mention their names, but there's the big ones that serve the whole country for grocery store distribution, make it nearly impossible for a new and emerging brand because they're so expensive. And it just takes people out of the game before they even got in it. So have established our own distribution networks that allows us to keep distribution costs really low for our clients. And we literally handle everything because our clients do not know this industry, number one, and two, they're still running successful restaurants.
That answers
So
the question of not increasing your head count. I guess before I talked to you, I had this impression like somehow you need a ghost kitchen or you need a commissary kitchen and you need extra people to start producing this stuff if you even prove that you have a market. So I'm completely wrong in that regard. So thanks for clarifying. So you obviously evaluate someone's product and say, yeah, I believe this has potential, or you know what, you're way off base here. This will never sell. You have to have those hard
exactly. That's
conversations.
phase one. Yes. Yes. That's phase one, we call it.
Okay. All right.
And
Take
the
us through the
validation
phases. Yeah.
phase. So
Validation.
phase one is validation, where
Okay.
we do a really deep dive into their product, their menu, like what products on their menu really have legs for CPG. And then we look at their brand, like can their brand survive outside of their city, outside of their community? And if not, like if currently their brand is very small, what would that look like on a national scale? A good example of that is Fancy Freeze. Fancy Freeze is our milkshake product, number one seller in its category. It's a fantastic product. It's a small brand out of Boise, Idaho. They have 2 restaurants. They're a great brand, very modern thinking when it comes to marketing and things like that. But it's still 2 locations. You wouldn't look at them and think, oh, they're ready for a national expansion. But they were very open to being coached into this new marketing and the way that we've built their product. They're getting on national shelves here as we speak. They've got, even though it's a local Boise brand, the brand has legs for national distribution and expansion because of how it was set up. So it's a very successful launch. But we look at that and say, is this business able and willing to update and scale up their branding so that they're able to position? Otherwise, we don't want the local deals. We're not going to just take a product that we can only sell in their local grocery.
Let me ask you a question. With that said, taking the brand to the next level, maybe they got an established clientele in Boise, Idaho, or wherever it is, and they got 2 restaurants and they got a loyal following and all that.
Mhm.
But again, do you evaluate the graphics, the logos, the fonts, the colors, the image, the aura? Or do you develop that? Do you have a team that says, you got something here, but you need to take your
Mhm.
marketing next level before we can do anything with it? And that's part of the package too?
That's in the validation phase, we're analyzing if they're willing to do that. And then we
Okay.
know and we have design partners that we work with and we
Yep.
trust. We delegate that piece to them, but we budget that in. In phase one, we're doing the financial pro formas for 24 months. We're saying, if we move forward, this is likely what it's going to cost you over the course of 24 months.
Okay.
And it's realistic. Like, I'm not trying to talk them into this. This is something this is the reality. It costs money to do this. So we evaluate, number one, what it's going to cost. Number two, do they have the mindset of somebody that can expand outside their region? Number three, what does our category tell us? So we pull Nielsen data, which tells us what's the category velocity? So how many products are actually selling off of those shelves right now? And who are they going to be competing against?
Fascinating.
Because
Okay. Yep.
that matters, right? Some shelves have a negative velocity where sales are really trending downward.
Mhm.
That's not good. We don't want to go into that area. We would look for a different product on their menu.
Wow. Okay.
Other categories have really high velocity. They're strong. We know we can move 30, 40 units a week, 50 units a week, whatever that number is. And we're going to really confident that the category can support this product, right? Then we would give it the green light and say, yeah, this makes sense. In phase one, it's all about the analysis, and we dive deep into the numbers. We dive deep into the category, the product, the formula. So we actually have an R&D team who will take their menu item and we figure out, is it even possible to make that manufacturable? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's just not realistic. Sometimes we have to invent things. We do hit that up sometimes where we have to come up with, we know that the North Star target is that product has to be an exact match of what's happening at the restaurant, because we're going to leverage that restaurant brand and it has to be the same. And customers will skewer you on social media if your product doesn't match.
You mentioned the word invent, which my gears just turned, and I'm thinking, how often, or is it really rare that you find a brand new category that gets pioneered by virtue of a unique product that's so unique that there is no competition and you see the potential in it, but yet it's not proven in any category? How often does
So
that happen?
we innovate on every product. but
Okay.
we're not going to develop new categories.
All
And
right.
there's a reason for that, because
Mhm.
what we want is when we get to a retailer conversation, if they have to try to figure out where this is going to fit, then we're out of the game.
Yes.
So we're going to
Perfect
make it
sense.
real easy for that retailer to say yes to us. Hey, this is the shelf we want. This is where the product fits. This is the velocity. This is why we think we're going to be great. This is why we've chosen this MSRP. Like, we go in fully armed. To get to that point, though, once we sit on a shelf, we want to stand out. It's important to have innovation.
Mhm.
So in that case, every product we develop, we're looking at how are we going to make this thing very unique and innovative. So like that milkshake behind me is another good example. We had to develop that product because milkshakes didn't exist. You can't freeze a soft serve milkshake. So we had to develop this patent pending pouch that allows us to freeze it. That was first hurdle. Second hurdle was we had to say, how can we make this fit on a shelf at the retailer level? We wanted it to fit in the handheld ice cream category because that had the highest velocity, number one.
Mhm.
And number two, it gave room on the shelf for the retailer to say yes. We could have gone with frozen beverage and then we had a lower velocity. So we know we're going
I
to
get
make
that.
this handheld ice cream. So everything is about knowing what's coming, what's around the corner, and how can we be prepared for that? How can we engineer this product so we have a smooth transition into retail? But we
Fantastic.
start in the very beginning because that doesn't happen by chance.
How involved? You're a passionate lady, I can tell, and you've had so much success and so much experience doing this. Is your role still day to day, right in the trenches, like evaluating products and viability and being part of all these phases?
I am very involved in every single day
Mm.
of this product. Yes, we have a strong and growing team, but I'm still very involved. So I'm at the higher level of involvement, like I'm making these decisions about strategy and so forth, but the team executes.
Okay, of
Obviously,
course.
we have a lot of products either in development or on shelf. So there's a lot happening, but yeah, I'm very involved and I love it. So I can work all the time and I'm real happy about it because I
So
love what we're doing.
how long has this company Pivot North Consulting been doing what we're talking about? And obviously you've got connections that keep expanding based on your longevity in business and your track record, but has it been several years?
Since 2021.
Okay,
So
fine.
right after COVID, we started this division.
And just in the United States, you in Canada as well?
So we're only selling on retail shelves in the United States, and that's on purpose. We're
Okay.
keeping it that way.
Sure.
The only exception is a few products on Amazon. Of course, that always automatically takes you outside the country.
Yeah.
But we are producing outside of the US. So we have one of our products two of our products now being produced in Mexico. So we're back and forth across the border with ingredients and with finished goods. And we're actually looking at producing in Sri Lanka. So there's opportunities outside of the US for manufacturing that we really like.
I guess the next thing that comes to mind is logistics and lead times and volume of purchases to have this stuff manufactured before you've actually. Do you start out small and test the market in certain regions and then expand and roll out from there? Tell us about. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because you started talking about the phases. We started talking about validation, and then I just took you off track and led you down a couple of roads. I don't want to
Yeah.
tell your story, but all these things are fascinating to our audience who might be interested in doing this.
Yeah. So phase one, we do develop a generalized roadmap of where do we think this product's going to go, what
Mhm.
retail partners, what is distribution going to look like.
Okay.
So once we're done with phase one, we can have that report to clients happy to move forward, or sometimes we say no. 50% of the time, I say no to a product because it's not fit for us. But when we all move forward into phase two, which is getting that product ready, that's the R&D, getting the product packaged and designed and everything that's involved. That's phase two. Phase three is brokerage and distribution. So when it comes to the logistics of all of that, of
Right.
course, there's ingredients going. Sometimes we're sourcing ingredients and getting them to the manufacturer. Sometimes the manufacturer sources those things. Every product is different. And
Can I ask you
then,
a question with that said?
yep,
We talked about the importance of consistency with the product as it's sold in the restaurant now.
yes,
And now suddenly you need volume of a
yep.
certain product that they might be using. Now you have to find alternatives in some cases that have the same flavor profile and the same quality and the same cost effectiveness, and all these things go into that equation, right? Everyone has a birthday, and people celebrate birthdays in restaurants. Birthdays bring larger parties that spend 40% more on the guest check. Plus, most birthdays happen in the middle of the week when you want more business. Are you getting this? Larger parties, larger checks, midweek business traffic. Is your restaurant capturing this birthday business? Don't let these birthday celebrations go to your competition. The Birthday Club is a done-for-you service that handles everything, sending you all the birthday business. It's a piece of cake. Go to jointhebirthdayclub.com/birthdayrockstar to get started. My restaurant sold tons of fried foods, but what a hassle dealing with the fryer oil and cleaning hoods from all that grease. Restaurant Technologies handles everything end to end. They deliver, filter, monitor, collect, and recycle your waste cooking oil. Their AutoMist system reduces the fire risk with automated hood and flue cleaning, hassle-free. As a customer, you'll save 10 to 15% on insurance premiums and even get bonuses for new customer referrals. Go to rti-inc.com or call 866-399-3639 to get started.
Yes. So how we approach that is, again, through the R&D team does a lot of this. But so, for example, our huckleberry syrup and huckleberry jam, okay, that is based on a restaurant concept out of California and Texas and Arizona. They're very fast-growing brand, Huckleberry restaurants. So their product, when it came to us, they didn't own their own formula. So we had to come up with their formula. We had to take their product and match it and then come up with this formula.
Okay.
So we did that part of it. And then part of the challenge was some of these, like another product that we have that we're producing in Mexico, that one, some of those ingredients you can't get in Mexico. So sometimes we have to take an ingredient and match that because it's not available in bulk. So then our R&D teams will create that ingredient itself and then say, okay, now here, make this ingredient along with the rest of the product. So we're always figuring out a way to get it done, because sometimes it's really common in restaurants. They'll be using some kind of a spice blend and it comes in a 6-ounce jar, and that's not going to happen to get it in bulk. So we have to engineer it. That's what we do.
Wow. This is
But it's a science
process.
thing, right? Yeah.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's like you're in the laboratory in some cases too.
Yep.
And there's got to be lots of tasting and all that sort of thing. And yeah, wow.
Absolutely.
This is a really fascinating topic.
Sometimes hundreds of variations before we hit where we want to hit. Yeah. It can be insane.
I probably took you off track. We're talking about phases, and I definitely want to lay out that roadmap for someone that is really interested in doing this. So I'm going to stop interrupting. I'm just going to listen to you tell us a story.
No. So phase 2 is getting the product ready, right? So now we have these design partners that we really like. And I don't know if you can see behind me, we just won a big award for it's an international food award called the Sophie Award for packaging design, innovation in packaging. Yep. And that came one of our design partners. Like, they worked with us on that packaging to make it really stand out and make it beautiful. So phase 2 is all about really engineering a product that's going to get attention. My North Star goal for these projects is that I want that consumer to walk down the aisle and I want fireworks to go off. I want so much attention on that product that they have to see it. They have to stop and look at it. And that gets us our first purchase. And then the taste and the quality and the texture and all those, the flavor profiles, all of that is what gets us those continued to the second buy, the third
purchases,
buy, the repeat purchases.
Yes.
And that's where the restaurant brands are so strong, is they've had all these years to develop products that we know consumers like, right? Customers are coming in every week to dine at that restaurant. It's a proven concept. So as long as we match to that, what they're doing, then we know we have a winner on the shelf, because it's a proven concept. We're not guessing.
Of course. It must vary dramatically from product to product, but is there an average timeline from you're sitting down with a client and you're saying, this is how the process works, and they say, yep, sign me up, and this is what I've got, and you agree, yes, I think this has potential. What is an average timeline before that product actually hits the market in stores and gets distribution?
I would say 9 months to a year. So phase 1 takes us about 4 to 6 weeks. So, and then if we move forward into phase 2, I usually say 6 to 9 months is reasonable. If R&D becomes really difficult, like our Tacotarian product took a year, but it's an amazing product. It's shelf stable. It's based, Tacotarian is a vegan, number one vegan taqueria in the country. They're voted number one. They're a fantastic brand, very fast growing. And that product took a lot of development to get it right. And it is fantastic, but so it's worth it. But sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So that I say 6 months, 9 months, somewhere in that range is reasonable. As soon as we have a co-packer and we know we're going to move forward, we start the sales process. So by the time we go into first full batch production, we want to have that batch usually around a third sold. So we've been pre-pitching all along to retail partners to get that product going. The other thing, if we have a shelf stable product, we're always going to want to put it on Amazon or TikTok Shop or anything like that, DTC, to get it in consumers' hands, get revenue coming in a little more quickly. So we can be DTC much quicker than we can get into a retail store.
Let's go back to the actual supermarket placement, which is so important, right? To make something stand out. So you mentioned that the milkshake product was with the handheld ice cream product and all that. And that makes perfect sense because you need freezer space for that. But there are shelf stable products that may be on an end talker just to introduce it, but then it gets moved to an interior shelf once it proves itself. Is that always the case? Or there's certain expenses that go with that because you're giving someone premier placement just to introduce it before it gets put in its natural place once it's established? I'm just guessing. Right. Everyone goes into a supermarket and we see the end talkers and we see the products that are right at the cashier for the impulse purchases as people are cashing out. And all of this has a strategy to it, I know.
Right.
And you're an expert in what that strategy is. How does that work?
So we approach this with, first of all, we always want to start regionally and then go locally or nationally. So regionally is that first year really getting intense focus in the region.
Okay.
Because of that, we're going to go to these retailers that have a strong local presence, and we're going to really amp up the side that, hey, this is a restaurant. It's a proven concept. You have customers that are in these restaurants that we're going to bring to you. So we're showing them how we're going to be a great partner. And we can get often, knock on wood, we get a lot of these deals. We don't pay slotting most of the time for these initial cut-in deals, or we call it an in and out deal where we're just going to come in, let's test the market, see how it goes. And give them a chance to try it. And sometimes that looks like an out of aisle display. They call it a shipper, and you put your product in the aisle and it stands in a nice display piece. Sometimes it's an end cap deal where we're just going to fill up the end cap and see how it plays. Even if they give us this little bit of space, what we do then is we immediately go into the retailer side marketing. So we're going to have in-store demo events where we're sampling the product with full branded,
next.
Branded, beautiful tables where everybody in uniform, it's sharp, and that brand is on display. And then we have dedicated merchandisers in every door we're in, where that means every week, one of our personal employees is going to walk into that store, make sure the shelf is set or the display is set, that it's fully stocked. They're going to be talking to the employees there to make sure that our products stay stocked. We just don't rely on anyone else. This is all of our internal team saying, we're going to make sure our displays are perfect and that our products are going to stand out. And that takes a considerable amount of investment and dedication, because that's what makes our products number one sellers. Like Fancy Freeze has been on the shelf 56 weeks now. It is the number one seller in almost every door. We've never been in 56 week span. We've never been less than fourth position, and we're competing against Klondike, Tillamook, all of the major ice cream brands. And we've never been less than fourth position in hundreds of brands in that category.
That's
because
spectacular success.
Yeah, it's a very successful product, which is why it's being picked up for national distribution now. But the point is that there's a commitment to these products. It doesn't, and the retailers know that. So we often will get away with not having to pay huge slotting fees, even if we do get slotted or when we get slotted, because they understand these are new and emerging brands. They don't have the margin for all of that, but they know we're going to perform, and they know we're going to bring them customers, and they know we're going to participate in their promo programs, and we're going to put coupons on Instacart and on their shopping apps, and we're going to be a great partner. So we can come to the table with other things besides the slotting. And sometimes we pay slotting fees. Sometimes we do. But when we do, it's after we've already really shown they're not as much as there are companies that will just come in. That's their strategy, is to just pay for the shelf. And that's my clients don't have that kind of money. Most of them.
I'm hearing competitive advantage in your entire approach from start to finish, and the
Absolutely.
relationships and the trust that you've established with the partners that you work with and the distribution channels and all. The award you talked about, is that for the milkshake product, the packaging award?
It is. It
It
is.
is.
The Sophie Award is given out by the Specialty
Okay.
Food Association.
Uh-huh.
Just went to New York a couple weeks ago to receive that. It was pretty fun and exciting.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But that product has won multiple awards for the packaging, because there's so much strategy that goes into the packaging design. And that's one of the pills that are a little harder to swallow for some of our clients in the beginning, is they don't understand how much that's going to cost, because they can't just use their designer who did their menus and the designer their brother-in-law who did their logo. That's going to give you a community reach, but that's not going to get you national legs.
Does research play into this, and focus groups and all this other kind of stuff? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I guess where I'm really going into this is tastes in different parts of the country. This may fly in the Northeast and it may
Yep.
bomb in the Southwest. You must have all that data that says, we believe this is the strongest market and we won't even take it to this market because we just don't think it'll do well. You make these hard decisions?
Yes. So that's one of the reasons we pulled Nielsen data, because Nielsen data is going to tell us how that category is performing and who our competitors are.
That's right. You said that. Mm-hmm.
And we always want to be innovative. Like, we're not coming into the market with the same product that's already on the shelf. We have to really make it stand out. So a good example of this is we have a new steak sauce coming out from a restaurant concept in Virginia, $17.99.
Mm-hmm.
That is an amazing product, amazing brand. They have a great story. Absolutely fantastic. But this sauce for their product, it's a very premium product. It takes months to get on a reservation at their restaurant. It's a very nice restaurant. We want that product to reflect their brand, right? So it has to be premium and beautiful. So we're doing a custom bottle. It's so beautiful. That bottle was designed to match their brand, reflect their brand, their position, all of that. When that product sits on a shelf in the grocery store, there's no question it's going to stand out. Going to look very different. It's going to get attention. And that's what is absolutely critical to the success of these products, is they can't look like everything else on the shelf. There has to be strategy behind how do we innovate. We have a soup product coming out. I'm not going to tell too many things because I don't want our competitors to grab it, but I will tell you that the soup product is super noisy, right? You walk through that and I can tell you that we have found a way to innovate on that. That's our focus, is making sure that once we're on the shelf, we really stand out and we look different. But so that's one thing. And then we really look into that Nielsen data to see what stores sell the most of that kind of a product, because not every store is a good candidate. I can tell you there's 0 products that we would put in a discount store, like one of these super cheap Dollar General types.
Yeah.
That's not our
General
product
Dollar
line.
or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Dollar General.
none of
that sort
those.
thing. No,
Yeah.
I get it. Okay.
We avoid those at all costs. So we're most of the time looking for more premium markets, central markets, Wegmans, Whole Foods, those kinds of brands for more premium products. So there is a strategy to what stores we go after. Which is interesting. If you talk to somebody who's bringing out a food product, let's say that they're doing it on their own, and they talk to a broker. Most brokers who sell food products into retail stores have certain retailers that they're strong with. Like, they'll say, hey, we can get you into Walmart, or hey, we can get you into Target, or we can get you into Whole Foods, whatever that is. We take a different approach and we say, what's the right partner for your brand? What's the right banner for this product?
Mm-hmm.
And then if we don't already have a relationship with those banners, we go aggressively pursue those relationships. And sometimes we'll partner with another broker who already has the relationships. We can get in there and get it started, and we'll split our commission with them to get us in that door, because we're targeting the retailer that's the right fit, not whatever retailers we already have relationships. So it's a different approach, but it's working.
Okay, that makes sense. How are you finding most of your clients?
LinkedIn and referrals.
Okay, all right.
We do get a lot of referrals. So my VA has a LinkedIn Sales Navigator thing. You'll search for restaurant owners with certain amount of size to them. We know that they need to be a certain size to be able to make this work generally. And then he has this little quick paragraph blurb that he sends them, and once they've connected. And if they respond to that, then we invite them to a webinar that's on the website. And if they listen to the webinar and they're interested, then they'll get time on my calendar. It used to be that they would just go straight from, hey, I'm a little interested, and they'd book on my calendar. And then I would talk to them. And then I realized 8 out of 10 of these are not good candidates, or they're going to take forever to make a decision. And I just don't have the time to chase them anymore
I
because
would
we're
think
so
not.
busy.
Yeah.
So having the webinar now, it really helps people sort it for themselves if they're a good fit for what we do. And then now I only really talk to people that are serious.
Beyond serious, let's talk about margins that are so important, because if you go through all this effort and all this time, and even though someone else is paying that bill, it's like there needs to be a certain margin that makes sense
Right.
for it to make sense for everybody involved. And every
Right.
product is so different, and you got to be able to figure out what's everybody going to take a piece of this, and what's the person that you first partner with going to make on this when all is said
Right.
and done, and how much volume are they going to have to do for it to make sense? It's a whole financial equation, right?
Yes. That is part of the phase 1 pro forma that we do, that 24-month pro
It is.
forma, is we're going to take our estimated cost of goods sold and plus distribution. We know what distribution
Okay.
costs.
Yes.
We know what our commission is going to be. We just know most of these numbers. How we approach that piece is we start at the end. So reverse engineer back. We know the retailer is going to have 40%, 38 to 40%, or you're not going to get on the shelf. They're not going to talk to you. So we know we have to hit that margin for the retailer. Then we know that our client needs to make money at this, or what's the point? So we know we want to have our client in that 18 to 25% range from those initial projections. So we look at that number. Then we know what the other distribution, what we know brokerage commission is going to look like. So now we know, okay, this is how much money we have. We know what MSRP needs to be.
Mhm.
We know that because of the Nielsen data. So then we go and engineer the product. And sometimes that means, hey, we can't do 12 ounces. We need to do 8. Or, hey, we can't do a glass bottle. This needs to be plastic. We are going to engineer what the variables that we can control is that cost of goods sold side of it, and the ingredients and all of that. So now we're looking at how can we make this product fit over here so that we hit all those other margin targets that we set out from at the beginning.
Besides the margin, though, there's also a strategy of what is the competition selling their product for, and is ours a more premium product, or is there a penetration strategy of charging a lesser price than the competition to steal their market share? And it's like, this
Yeah.
can go on all day, having these type of
Yeah.
strategies, and making the right decision is critical. And
Absolutely. So that's where
remember,
MSRP comes
shift
in.
gears.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about
Yeah.
that.
So the MSRP side of it is we're going to look at MSRPs in that category and see what
Yes.
is the competition selling for. And 0% of the time are we going to try to compete on price. We're never going to be the lowest cost product in that category because that's for the national brands. You'll never win that battle. So don't even
Based
bother
on
with
that
it.
volume,
Yeah.
sure.
So we're looking at what are the premium products charging? And we don't want to be the most expensive, but we're also not going to be the cheapest. So we're somewhere in that middle range of premium products. What is the top? What's going to keep our velocity where we need it to be, but also be able to have a product that people are going to purchase. So that's, again, that MSRP strategy is something we engineer from the beginning before we even look at cost of goods sold. And then some clients, I will say that once it's all in and said and done, in the beginning, your first couple of launches, first couple of production runs, you're not going to make much money. Usually it's a break-even deal because you're investing more in the bulk packaging purchases and all the things that you have to do to get going. So we make sure the client's fully prepared for the realities of how that cash flow is going to work. But MSRP is an absolutely critical thing. And we change that sometimes. Like sometimes by the time you get to market, MSRP can be a little higher.
Yeah. Is there an average typical investment over all your experience of rolling out all these products? And if you can just give us an idea.
Yes, I would say that kind of on the lower end over the course of 24 months, doesn't all come to me and it doesn't all happen at day one.
Yes.
But over the course of that 24 months for inventory and all that, we've seen very successful launches in that 150 range, 100 to 150,000. We can usually make that work.
That's
It means that
helpful to know.
we're going to stay in that region to begin with while they get the cash flowing. And then we can expand using reinvesting those earnings. If a client has more money to put into inventory, then we're going to want to put them into a Walmart deal where they're getting 3,800 doors day one, right? Like pretty quickly, which can be a really good strategy, but they need a lot more money. Then we're talking about
Oh
millions
yeah,
of dollars
resources
for,
and
yeah,
yeah.
because you'll be carrying that inventory for several months before you get paid on it. So we look at every client's a little bit different. Every client up until just recently, I have a client who has a much larger budget. We're able to expand them much quicker, but everybody else, we're trying to keep them in that 100, 150 range to make this a stable, secure rollout that they're going to be able to manage for cash flow, get into the local distribution, regional distribution, and just take it as we go. So we're in this together, but especially in the beginning, we didn't have a lot of clients who could just put $500,000 on the table. They didn't have it. And so how can we make this profitable and make it work? But we're very careful with their money. Like we look at this and say, if we're doing this in a conservative rollout and managing the number of doors that we're going to go into, then we can usually keep those budgets pretty tight.
You mentioned payment terms, and that must vary from company to company. Does your company have any leverage with your best relationships for a quicker payment, or is it all pretty much set in stone? And if you want to get into Walmart or Target or any of these bigger Whole Foods, this is what the payment terms are, and there's no negotiation. Does it vary in every case, or is it no negotiation?
There's not usually a lot of negotiation with the retailers. They have their systems in place and they're going to pay at a certain timeline. I think one thing that we do for our clients is we stand on those receivables.
Absolutely. Hold
If
them
we're
to
not
it.
paid on a certain day, then there's phone calls and emails. Hey, we're checking in. Because I've seen it go from where you're told it's a 30-day pay and then it turns into 90 real quick. That my clients can't sustain that. So we have people on our team that stand on those receivables pretty carefully and making sure that their clients are getting paid. And we've been able to make sure, I don't think we've had any of them yet that have gone over 2 weeks, longer than expected, just because we have somebody standing on them.
The budget that you just laid out, just the rough estimate, does that include your fees, or that's just the cost of doing business?
That's the cost of our fees, marketing, warehousing, distribution, cost of goods sold, all your packaging. It just depends on the product. If you're doing a meat product, you need about 300,000.
Okay. That's
If
helpful
you're
to know.
doing something a little more simple, like a sauce or a plant-based product or something that doesn't have heavy food cost, then we can usually make it work 100, 150, 200 range.
Are there
Reasonably, like successfully. Yeah.
That's good news.
Mhm.
That's great. Are there certain products that lend themselves best to this strategy? We talked about a milkshake product, which was a pioneer in the category. And
Mhm.
we're talking about meats and we're talking about sauces. We're talking about this taqueria. That's a pretty broad spectrum of product. But over your experience, is there one category that's just a no-brainer? We're going to look at it, no questions about it, and we're going to make this work because we know this category works. So these products work best within that strategy.
I want innovation in a category. I want to change a category. I want to take a category and bring something that is new and exciting and fresh to that category. So I don't really care what category it is. I will not do refrigerated. So we don't do anything that is refrigerated because the shelf life sucks. So we only do frozen. We only do shelf stable. That's
Makes
it.
perfect sense.
So if it has to be, and we engineer products every day to make them shelf stable. Where normally it might be refrigerated, we find a way to make it shelf stable.
Okay.
Because we just won't touch it. The other side of that is if it's a super noisy category, then sometimes it's a heavier financial lift to be competitive. Sauces, condiments, super, super noisy. So you're going to have to really drive innovation to get attention on that particular shelf and to even get the space, because these are, like I said, noisy categories with a lot of competition. So what I care about, I guess my North Star thing that I focus on with a new client, what are they known for? And that's where the milkshakes came in. They were known for milkshakes. Tacotarian is known for their plant-based taco fillings, right? Like these are important. It's important to align to the restaurant brand because that's what we're going to leverage. That's what we're going to say. Hey, look at this. These clients, you can get this at home now. Or you love this restaurant when you visited Las Vegas. Now you're going to go home to Missouri. You want this product, right? I think that the biggest, most important question first is, what is this brand known for? What's going to resonate with their fan base? And then let's bring that product to market and let's figure out the best way to do it.
This is so fascinating to me. And it brings me back. When I was in graduate school, I had to write a paper on an entrepreneur. And I was in the Boston area, and there was a company back then you may have heard of that went national, and it was bought out by Frito-Lay, and the product was Smart Food. And it was
Oh, for sure.
popcorn
Yep.
in a bag with the cheddar cheese and all that kind
Yep.
of stuff. And I'm interviewing this person who's the CEO and the founder of the company. And I think he just experimented in his kitchen and he came up with this product. And now he's got distribution and tractor trailer trucks with the Smart Food on the side and all this kind of stuff. And then he gets to the point of selling it to Frito-Lay. How often do any of your brands or in general idea get an exit strategy where a national company just buys them for a boatload of money?
Unfortunately, it happened to us early on to the point where now we've built verbiage into our brokerage agreement that says if that happens, we get paid a portion because it happens. It's really common for the large food brands. That's how they innovate. They don't have their own innovation divisions. That's how
Buy
they do
something
it.
proven that works.
Yep. They find somebody that did the innovation. They say, oh, let's take that. And it happened. We had just launched in California, beautiful launch, lots of doors. We were all pretty excited about this product and they got bought out. And it happened. My client took care of us. He said, I'm going to make sure that it's fair for you guys. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm not going to count on that moving forward. We have to build this into our brokerage agreements now because
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
That was going to be a next question, but you're answering it. I was going to ask you, do you ever take equity stakes in products that you really believe in? And that's part of the deal. And if it goes huge, it's like you guys made it happen.
I don't. And I get asked that quite a bit. I really believe that we have to earn the business. So what we do is we take a 5-year brokerage agreement and we're going to earn that business. We're going to perform at a level where that client, there's not going to be a question mark if they're going to renew at the end of 5 years. But I don't want a client with me out of obligation or because I have a stake in their business or anything like that. Let's earn their business. We do what we do and we do really cool things here. And it's all about taking care of the client. And we hand select these clients. Like we're not going to take everyone. That's not our model. But when we're in with these clients are like family, like we are in this together. And I think they feel that connection with us, with me, especially we're in this together. When
I'm
there's
getting
a problem,
trust and transparency here in this relationship. And it's a win or it's not going to win for anyone. I'm getting that.
And we literally, when it comes to phase 3, we are 100% commission based. So if my client's not getting paid, I'm not getting paid. And I'm still spending money on these merchandisers and all these demo events. And we're spending the money and I'm investing right along with them. If they're not making money, I'm not making money. And that's just fair. So I'm willing to earn the business. I don't need to, and I don't take a piece of it because we're dealing with, in the beginning, especially, it's hard to get the margin they need to be successful as it is, let alone someone taking more. So I get my brokerage commission and it's fair and everybody wins and everybody's happy about it. And I'll just keep earning it.
Wow, you've given us a real deep dive into this whole process of opportunity and expanding your business and growing without adding employees and what the potential is. And I think every restaurant owner that has a product believes, wow, it can go so much farther than just my restaurant. And you're giving them an opportunity to do that. Have we missed anything? We've covered some ground today.
I don't think we've missed anything. I would say that one of the things that I think is valuable to these brands that do this, these restaurant brands, because a lot of them are like, why should we do this? Are we really going to make money? Because you're not going to make money for probably a year, maybe 2. Usually by the end of year 2, you're making good money because it's nice.
Sure. It's an investment, an opportunity.
But I think one of the things that I love about, so yesterday I was on with a major, I can't say the name, but it's a major retailer that has all this country and many others covered. And we had a meeting yesterday and we were talking about one of our products. And he was like, what I really like about this is that I don't really need to know that restaurant exists in that town. This product could stand alone. And I'm like, exactly. That's how we decide. That was on purpose. I don't say it like that, duh, but that's what I was thinking. I was like, that's how we engineered that, but maybe I wasn't clear. But it gives these restaurant brands a chance to build a brand that's national brand, have a footprint, so much credibility for their brand. That's adding value to their business, the value of their business overall, makes them much more fundable if they have this. If they want to open another location, here you have another profitable revenue stream feeding money into your business. I think there's a lot of benefits to restaurant owners that they might not always kind of consider. They're just thinking, should I open another restaurant or should I do CPG? Because it's a similar investment, right? This one has the chance to scale. You don't hit the ceiling.
There's the
every
word.
time you hit a new location, you're going to hit seating count. You're going to max out on seating count. You're going to max out on drive up, whatever those things are.
And you're going to have all those employee issues and hiring and firing and logistics and investment and
Yep.
And
so this one, similar
wow.
investment, but you have a chance to scale, and there's really no limit.
No,
Like,
there isn't. No.
Yeah.
It could absolutely explode. The right product, the right timing, the right marketing, the right packaging, and all the things you talked about can absolutely put this company as small as 2 locations on the map. And suddenly,
Absolutely.
wow, that's incredible.
Mhm.
This has been fascinating, Gail. I really
Well,
appreciate
thank
you
you.
being on the podcast. That was, wow, what an eye-opener for our audience. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
I've enjoyed chatting.
Doing-
Yeah. I can
You're-
talk
you're-
shop all day long.
I can too. I really enjoy that. But you're delivering a tremendous service for our industry. So
Thank you.
thanks for
Thank you.
sharing.
Absolutely.
That was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Thank you so much to our audience
right.
for tuning in. Thank you so much, Gail, for being a great guest. And thanks to our sponsors for supporting our show. Can't wait to see you all in the next episode. Stay well, stay tuned, and we will see you then. Restaurant Equippers has served independent food service operators nearly 60 years. They have low everyday prices and huge warehouse stores in Ohio, Michigan, and New Jersey. Shop for your restaurant equipment at equippers.com or call 800-235-3325. Their experienced specialists are standing by with thousands of name brand products available for immediate store pickup or shipment. Restaurant Equippers is a family-owned business just like yours. Give them a call for all your equipment and supply needs or visit them at equippers.com.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.